Chris DeLeenheer, welcome back to the podcast. How we doing, brother?
Oh, blessed.
I mean, come on. How blessed?
Highly blessed.
How blessed.
Oh.
The Unfinished Leadership podcast. Love having you on it. It's way more fun, I can tell you that much. A lot of these are monologues, me talking about leadership and how...
Not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but this is a lot more fun. I prefer to be the interviewer than the guy giving the talk.
Die is better than the mono.
Yeah. The die is better than the mono. Unfinished Leadership, we believe that no finish lines. And we'll get to that here in a second. And the reason I asked you to be on the podcast for a few of these in a row is because you just launched a book, The Quiet Drift. Here it is, folks. Wherever books are sold, you can pick up your copy of The Quiet Drift. The foreword by one of your friends, Pastor JP, there in Waco, Texas. Awesome book. And we're talking about different parts of the book, so if you guys missed the last episode, you can go ahead and check that out. But let's continue the conversation on this book. It's beefy, this book. This isn't just like a 100-pager like I've written before. This is like legit. The hand feel, folks. I mean, this guy's been...
Great weight to it.
Here's the part that I want to jump into today, and it's around one of the most used, overused, and probably least understood words within the Christian community, calling. And you write about it in your book. Let's dive into it. Let's talk about it. What kind of stirred you to start talking about calling in the book?
I think it was my own wrestling with it.
Okay.
My own kind of ambition to want to be clear, where are we going? Like, where's the destination point? And I think too, Bobby Clinton, Making of a Leader, talks about like that most leaders push the eject button between 40 and 55, right? So I'm like in those years right now. And this is like when people kind of get disillusioned. You get, I always say what money can the temptation of what money can do is breed independence and isolation. And this where you can drift from calling. And so I just felt this like deep need of my own natural awareness that I can drift, and of saying, Lord, I need a sense of north of like where are we headed.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting that how you're talking about what success can produce. I think you use the word independence. I think I know what you mean by that, but talk to me more about that.
Yeah, I just, the phrase income can build islands. And unfortunately what happens is you start, in your early days, you're kind of scrappy, just barely paying the bills, and you get more than what you need. Then you kind of get your time back. Then you have the freedom to travel. It's like those things. And then what can slowly begin building is not a greater dependence on God. It actually becomes more of an independence where you do your own thing.
Okay. And that's the drift that you're talking about.
That's the drift.
And it's not an overt drift. It's not a loud drift. It's a quiet drift. And if it were loud, then we could all spot it. And that's really, I feel like the title of the book, in the subtitle, Why Successful People Lose Their Way and How to Find Their Way Back. So we appreciate the second part of that. It's like, so we can't find our way back.
There's a way.
But I think it's just so good. Why successful people lose their way and how to find your way back. And that's a big part of your story, because from every measurable way possible, you made it. I mean, your balance sheet revealed it. When I rolled up, to your town, here comes Deli in his tricked out Range Rover, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I see your office, and I see your house, and your amazing family, and and like you're following Jesus, like you're doing all the stuff, and from the outside looking in, like this guy is crushing it, and yet the truth was you were drifting, and it was a quiet drift, and so your vulnerability in the book, your honesty, and also tools on how people can find their way back, so important. So this calling is really what I want to talk about for a little bit on this episode. And in the book, you get into this word race. And one of the metaphors in the Bible about our life is this word race. You don't need me to tell you that, but it's one of the predominant metaphors of how we can think about life. The Apostle Paul uses it over and over again, race. I like how Rick Warren says, how you see your life shapes your life.
Mm.
You know, so it's like, what's the guiding metaphor for our life? Like, we need to really think about guiding metaphors. They're super helpful. And so you talk about this guiding metaphor of a race, and that's a big theme right now in your life. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What do you mean by running your race? What's that all about?
Yeah, you know, there's a kind of a version of Christianity of kind of that we see maybe here in the Western side, you know, of, you know, faith is dark brew coffee, quiet space, my journal, and my favorite scripture, and like that's where, you know, spiritual formation happens, right? And I love that. You know, there's nothing wrong with that setting. But the reality is that, you know, I love this phrase that a mentor told me, is that God has come disguised as your life to teach you his ways. And so the reality that God is using, you know, I say that my identity isn't that I'm an entrepreneur or a business owner or a managing partner, or whatever the titles are. Those are just arenas that God has crafted for my formation. And so the reality that, like, now that I'm kind of more on the investment side of my career, and it feels like, wow, you call me to serve you, yet you put the tree right in the middle of my garden of temptation. Like, Mammon's right there every day. Every day I wake up, and it's right there. But that's not, God didn't do that to cause me to want to fail, or, you know, setting me up for to not be successful in my calling to him. That exists so that my lean into him, the training into righteousness, my bent for love will be even stronger. And so it's kind of reframed it. Of, you know, it's not like I need to change my job, or I need to like this career is just an evil space. It can be, obviously, based on however you interpret it, but this is an opportunity. This is an arena for my formation to really, really take shape.
Yeah, and that's the, you know, choosing on how you're going to interpret things, the meaning you're going to give to things. You know, God isn't setting you up to fail. He's giving you an opportunity to learn how to navigate this. And you know, you talk in that same chapter around identity and making sure that our identity is what's leading the way, not just drive, not activity. When you think about identity, this calling that you have, are there words that come to mind? Are there phrases that have been helpful over the years when it's like, who are you? Who's Chris DeLeenheer?
Yeah, so I think in my early days, man, you know, like the idea that I'm a son. Okay. That's not new. It's not like I was like, no way. Like, I just heard that last year, man. That's amazing. Like, I have heard that since I was a kid. You know, like, I'm part of the family of God. I'm a son. So so then what happens is, like, we hear that, it doesn't like move us enough. So we're like, oh, I need more than that. And so then you like start like, oh, I got to add this piece and this piece and this piece and this piece. And you know, what I've learned later on that I wish I would have learned earlier is I didn't need new, I needed deeper. And so I'm like, very simply, what is my calling? To become like Jesus in word, thought, and deed. I want to live in union. The goal is that love would grow in my life towards him and towards other people. Like, that's the primary calling of what God's doing. What's my identity? I'm a son. That's it. It's like, I'm just like, I think what I'm trying to do is, I think some of the weights that can come on in a race are the extras that we think we need to kind of like get us back in alignment. And what I think what we need is not more, we need depth. And so I take a lot of time sitting in that reality that, man, I am a son. I'm a son. What does that mean? What does that mean to my relationship? What does that mean to my day? What does that mean to the challenging things I'm facing? What does that mean when the projects that aren't going well? What does that mean to the successes that are going well? Like, all of that. And so in this season or phase, man, things are actually getting a lot simpler. Okay. But it's like, it's not this like 5-page thing. It's that, boom, I'm a son. That's my identity. I'm a son. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a business owner. I'm not a hybrid athlete. I'm not a, wealth allocator. No, I'm a son. That's who I am.
Yeah, that's the stuff you do, but it's not who you are.
Yeah, it's stuff I do. These are just arenas. These are just sandboxes I play in.
Yeah. And, this idea of, hey, stop running somebody else's race. Run your own race. Talk to the person out there that's like, wait, there's a unique race that God had in mind for me. And share a little bit of how, you've gotten caught up in running other people's race, but you're feeling these days very clear on the race that Chris DeLeenheer is supposed to run.
Yeah. So, I remember when I came over from football to baseball.
Okay.
And the way that we trained in both sides, like we trained as baseball players, we lifted weights, we ran, we did things totally different than what we did in football. Like this was a very different prep process to get my body literally had to change going from this sport to this sport. Now when I look at like how I prep for like a high rocks race, prepping for a marathon when I'm in strength season, it's a totally different prep process based on the race that I'm in.
Okay.
And so in this race that God has me in, and he's, called me a son, and he is calling me to become more like him, I look down at the arenas that he's placed me in and saying, okay, so there is a training in finance that he has me in on what does it look like redemptively to be a steward of the king's resources, because I'm not an owner, even though everybody calls me that, and that's my job title, and that's the owner of the business. I'm not the owner, I'm the steward. I'm just the steward. So I have to I think words really matter. And so I have to tell myself that. Something massive that happened in my journey really, as we started doing it, is saying, Chris, just because you're not wearing jerseys anymore doesn't mean you're an athlete. I designed you as an athlete. And so there's a stewardship thing that I felt like he said, that I want you to eat, sleep, and train like an athlete, always preparing for races. And so I'm like, no, I'm an athlete. I'm not earning the right to be one. I am one. And I need to live like one. And that's how physically I feel like God's asked me to steward my body.
And you were, close to 300 pounds at that time?
I was a big boy. I was a big boy. There was a lot going on. I was not living like an athlete. Yeah. And so I get it. Maybe that's not for everyone is called to live like an athlete. Maybe that's not their thing, but I know that's my thing.
Yes.
I know he's called me to entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And so what does that look like? What does it look like to hear God on a new idea and opportunity? How do I steward that opportunity? How do I understand my role in that opportunity? Because with every company I have, I play a different role in each of them. And so it's learning to discern that so that I'm like sitting in the right chair, stewarding rightly in that. That's part of my formation. And then there's the things that come in life, I've been working through a lawsuit that I've been in for 18 months.
Brutal.
Lord, how do you navigate this? How do you do it with honor, love? The biggest thing is learning how to be open-handed and not, giving into fear and vain imagination and conspiracy theories of like, oh, this is going to happen, and building these court cases don't even exist, And so all of that is a part of my training.
I love
like
it.
I'm being trained. I'm a dad. I'm getting trained by dad to be a dad.
So we train for transformation.
We train for transformation.
Take us into your race in Houston. I'd love for you to tell the story about what you experienced in Houston. Take us into that. Training for your
when I started the training for my first marathon. So,
yeah.
I mean, man, I had never ran more than 2 miles ever in my life. And I remember I called my neighbor one day and I said, hey, man, I got to run 4 miles. And, dude, 4 miles felt like, the biggest mountain of my life. Like, I was so intimidated with the idea of going out and running 4 miles. I was like, hey, man, do I need, like, gels and a vest with, like, a Camelback so I can, like, have what all am I going to need? He's like, lace up your running shoes and meet me at my house. And so I showed up, and we went on a 4-mile run, went 2 miles out and 2 miles back. And I was like, I did it. And then, I got connected with a guy that I've been walking with for a long time that's younger than me. And he's like a pro, like not like a literal pro, but like sub 3 hour marathon guy. And he said, man, I'll train you. I'll help you do it. And so that's, where you learn the power of drafting, of like, how do you do a track day? Like, what does your running cadence need to look like? How does your nutrition need to change? Like, what are my macros? I needed to up my carbs. I needed to eat more because I'm burning more. I set the goal of I wanted to be sub 4 hours on my first one. And man, I can remember like we show up to Houston. I don't know, like then it gets like administrative, and you know me, like kind of staying in the big picture. But I was like, how do you get your bib? And I'd come with like gels and Gatorades and all this stuff, and I was like, wait, how am I going to get these during the race? Like, and they're like, oh yeah, there's like drop stations. I was like, well, how does that work? Like, how do I know it's my? I was like. I was starting to stress out, and I'm, Libby's with me, and I've got 2 of my girls, and I call my trainer, and he's like, hey man, just chill, like it's gonna go. And so we just decided like the day of, like, let's just plan on not seeing you during the race, and let's pack as much as we can on you and just give it our best shot.
And you did it. You went sub 4 hours. I was tracking you the whole time. The video, I think Libby got video footage of you running a little bit. You stood out. I'll just put it that way. Of course, you never wear a shirt when you run because you're jacked. But you stood out not just because you're jacked, but you're bigger than everybody else in the race. But sub 4 hours, your first marathon. And here's what I'm kind of getting at is you didn't show up to Houston and you didn't say, I'm just going to kind of wing it here. Let's see how this goes.
I don't know how those people do it. I mean, I had a plan. Yeah. I mean, it was like written out.
Yes.
It was like, okay, this is your mileage this week, next week. It was like, when I hear these people like, yeah, I'm just going to show up, I'm like, wow.
And you're all in now on running these races.
Yeah, because
this is obviously a metaphor we're talking about, but also literally you're running races. I mean, not just Houston, you're training right now for Chicago Marathon. You're now part of Team World Vision, which is amazing.
Yeah. So I think what happened as I got into, so when I first started, I'm 300 pounds. I'm embarrassed. Like there's a deep level of like kind of shame
like
that I
shame.
let myself get to this.
Yeah.
And so, if I'm really honest, I think the initial real motivations was I wanted to be impressive. I wanted to be physically impressive. I wanted to do these feats. And I always say this, like, don't not start because your motives aren't great. Just like start, and then God'll do it.
Yeah.
Like he'll refine it in the
That's
process. Good. And I think the big thing of why I love running, I mean, one, physically, it's not like, if you want to look better, running isn't probably the best option. You should probably lift weights. But what I love is that I am a finisher. Like that is a thing. Like I will be on runs on days my legs are heavy, I don't feel good, and I'm like, I am a finisher, because for so much of my life I felt intensely inconsistent. I would tell people I'm the start guy, I don't finish things. And I'm like, no. I'm going to finish this race. I'm going to finish this run. I'm going to finish with my marriage. I'm going to finish with Jesus. I'm going to finish. I'm going to finish in life. And I think that, in my opinion, there's something about these endurance races that are very prophetic for our life.
Yes.
A picture of like, most people will not finish this race of life. Most people are going to pull up in their 50s, in their 60s, and like they're going to choose the American dream over the dream of God. And I'm like, no. I like have this desire, this ambition that there would be a whole host of us, a community of us, a movement of us that finish well.
Yes.
And so,
and I, obviously I'm with you in that the years of me running these races, what they've taught me about it's transferable. I'm like, I don't run these because I'm not good.
We're not podium. We're not getting on any podiums.
I'm in no danger of getting on a podium. I'm in no danger of getting a shoe deal.
Yeah.
But, the calling God's put on my life, this vocation, that's what vocation means, is this, from the Latin calling. Like there is, God has called me. Pretty cool. The Protestant Reformation. So Martin Luther, he was fighting the Catholic Church on a lot of things. What a legend. Talk about running your race.
Yeah.
And, we don't in many ways get to choose our race, but God sovereignly called him to a very specific race. And so he's running his race. Well, one of the things that Martin Luther fought the Catholic Church on had to do with calling. It's interesting. So at that time, 1600s, whatever, the Catholic Church was teaching that only clergy were called.
Interesting.
Yeah. So only the clergy were called, and they're the only ones that had a vocation. And Martin Luther's like, no. Like, if you read the Bible, like, this is the priesthood of all believers. And he literally gave his life for a number of things, but calling is one of them. That he's like, no. If you follow Jesus, you have been called. There is a vocation for you, no matter if that's in, the business world like you're in, or I'm in the church world myself. You're a stay-at-home mom. It doesn't matter. You're a banker. You're a butcher. You cut grass for a living. You're a grandparent in this stage of life. You have a calling. And to understand even where that comes from, it moves me deeply that a guy was willing to go to the stake for it. And so, when you write in your book, I love the just run your race. There is a race God has marked out for you. The Bible teaches us. And so we're going to run our race. That passage in Hebrews says, so here's how we're going to do it. We're going to fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Let's finish up this episode by just give some very specific, tangible things. And you talked a little bit last session too, but what does that look like for you to fix your eyes on Jesus as you've been running your race? What have been some specific things, some practical things that have helped you really stay locked in on Jesus as you run your race?
Yeah, so I think a big component that Libby and I began working on together, and that's one thing, if your wife's a believer and you guys, have alignment in that, is we have crafted a rule of life that we kind of live by as far as how we do spiritual practice. So that's how, we approach, our own devotional life, fasting, prayer, community. What's cool now is we're like in a community now with 2 or 3 other families. We have a shared rule of life that we do together. So like on Wednesdays, we're all fasting together. Wow. We all practice Sabbath together. It's really special. We go on different, we have a community retreat. We follow the calendar and anyways, it's very, very special. And so what's the temptation when you create a rule of life is to tick boxes.
Okay.
And the key there with that is these are just bumper lanes to presence.
Okay.
Like the key is presence. It's not, did I read my Bible? Did I pray? Did I pray for my people who don't know Jesus? Did I share my faith this many times? Did I serve this many, whatever? No, these are just bumper. They're like, kind of like, when you go bowling, you got they keep it. So we're hitting strikes.
It means, yep.
The strike is the presence of God.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the centering piece that we always want to come back to, is that we're building towards a greater union, a greater abiding, more aware of his presence, more in love with the person, more in love with the people.
Yeah.
Like that's the fruit that we want coming off the tree.
And I know as you and I worked together for a couple of years, getting to coach you, one of the things that you developed was a weekly scorecard. You're like, hey, I need to know if this week was a win. And what I'd like for you to talk about real quick is your morning routine, because you said last episode, every morning when you wake up, you have a choice to make. Am I going to worship God or money? There's a lot of business guys that listen to this podcast, a lot of amazing guys that attend, Mission Church, guys that I love deeply, and gals. And they're like, yeah, that's the same thing too. And so they wake up, the first thing they're reading is the Wall Street Journal or whatever, they're checking whatever, balance sheet. And it's like, now the horse is out of the barn kind of thing. And I know what your morning routine is, but I want you to share with everyone your morning routine. So you have this rule of life you do with Libby and your community. Amazing. Talk about the morning routine and how that's helped you fix your eyes on Jesus.
Yeah. So I think simply crafting a repeatable morning routine has been really transformational, and setting specific like boundaries around it. So like, no cell phone until I've spent time in the Word. That's like a great boundary line. So waking up, I'm in a unique season right now. I've been training with my girls, which has been so special. Just, logging miles. We're in the weight room every day, 3 of them. We're all piled in there. It's totally awesome. So the morning has looked a little different than what normally, but like normally what it looks like is wake up. I typically make Libby's coffee, and I do that to kind of cue in, like I'm here to serve, not to be served, her. Yeah. And then immediately I go into the gym, and I get on my knees, and I just open my hands physically like this, and I surrender.
Wow.
And I just pray. I have a prayer of surrender. That's this kind of crafted prayer that I pray of just surrendering my time and my day. Father, I surrender our resources. I surrender my past. I surrender my failures. I surrender my future. I surrender my ambitions, my dreams. I surrender to you, Papa. And then I just pause and I listen. And it's an open hand. And I recommend, there is a power of like opening your hands that really works. And then, typically I would get on a treadmill, and I've got kind of my daily, I've got kind of my crafted prayers and things I'm kind of praying into, and scriptures that I pray, people I pray for, my family, my work, my projects. And it's a very like it's a good conversation. So like, let's, I think we can get a little socially retarded with God, in the sense of like, we talk the whole time. Anybody ever been with that person? It's not the best conversation. No. It's best when it's a little two-way. So it's conversational, and something that I think is just a simple, great thing is like, Jesus, Holy Spirit, give me the prayers that are on your heart today. And like lead this time of prayer. So obviously I have at times an agenda, but it's very like, feel free to take me off course into whatever you care about and you want to talk about. So I take some time to pray, and then, I'm a sauna cold plunge guy in the morning. So I like that as kind of a wake me up. That's at times where I'd read my Bible, or while I'm sitting in the sauna. And then, usually we're in the gym, and, hit a workout.
I love it. And it's, I think it's important as we finish up this episode that we actually have agency over how we start and end our day.
Yeah.
You talked last time about how you end your day, and I think that's so important.
Yeah.
You have some resources that you've created at your website. So 85leadership.com is where they can find those resources, and some guides that you've created when it comes to spiritual retreat and things like that. They can also pick up the book at 85leadership.com on the quiet drift. Until next episode, Del, love you. Love talking about the important things of life. We don't need new, we need deeper. And we need to learn that God has called every single one of us to run the race that he's marked out for us. And we're going to do that by keeping our eyes on Jesus. Love you, bro.
Love you, buddy.
Yeah, man.